Hello children, now we are moving on to the next chapter of our grammar textbook, that is chapter 4 which is clauses. It won't be chapter 4 in your textbook, but it could be some other chapter, but this is the fourth lesson, fourth important topic that we are doing in this textbook. Okay, now what do you mean by clauses? Now this word would be something very new to you. So now before we go into clauses, I will tell you what do you understand by the word phrase. Okay. Now phrase, you must have heard this word, especially when it in literature and all, complete the phrases and all those type. Now when we do grammar, you must have, your teachers must have told you what do you understand by the word sentence. Now sentence, as you all can easily tell me the definition, sentence is a group of words that make complete sense, which begin with a capital letter and end with a full stop. Now a phrase, now what is a phrase? Now phrase, now if you just look at these three group of words that has been written there: in spite of, in a corner, couldn't go. Now if I just read out like this way, these three group of words, does it make any sense? No, they don't make any sense. So now I will tell you what exactly a phrase is. A phrase is a group of words that make sense but not complete sense. Okay, they make some sense but not complete sense, and then you all, when you read out such sentences, you will be having a questioning look on your, or a frown over your forehead. So then means you are waiting for that other person to either give you the complete information, or you have a questioning look over your face. So now here I will tell you what is a phrase. A phrase is a group of words that make sense but not complete sense. Okay. Now it does not have a subject and a verb. Now everything, whenever when we bring it into the grammar, it always comes in subject, verb, subject, object, and then all the technical terms of the grammar will come into. So now, since this is the grammar topic about clauses, we are first telling you how you can differentiate between a phrase and a clause. So now in these three group of words that I have given you, in spite of, in a corner, couldn't go, is there a subject for the first one, like in spite of? Do you find a subject and a verb there? No. In a corner, do you find a subject and a verb there? No. Couldn't go, is there a subject and a verb there? No. So a phrase is a group of words that make some sense but not complete sense, and they do not, now remember, they do not, it does not have a subject and a verb. Okay, so that is something that you have to remember. It does not have a subject and a verb. Okay, now we will now move to the next part. Now we are coming into our topic, what is a clause? Okay, a clause is a group of words that has a subject and a finite verb. A clause is a group of words that has a subject and a finite verb and forms a part of a sentence. Okay, it is a part of a sentence. Sometimes whatever is given, they may be complete, sensible, independent sentences also. Okay, so now here it is it's a group of words that has a subject and a finite verb. Now what is a finite verb? Do you all remember? Well, I will tell you later on what is a finite verb. Now for example, look at this given sentence here. Dexter won the bicycle race. Now in this sentence, is there a subject? Is there a verb? Yes, Dexter, subject, one is a finite verb. Now what is a finite verb? I told you, I'll tell you later on what is a finite verb. That is a verb that changes according to the tense. Okay, a finite verb. Now we do not have a verb that is called as one. This has changed according to the tense of this sentence. So that is a verb that changes according to the tense of a sentence. I am not going to go into the further details of what is a finite verb and everything. Just understand finite verb is a verb that changes according to the tense of a sentence. Now, I want you to copy these few sentences into your notebook. Now, these are extra exercises because we are not going to cover the whole of this lesson of clauses. This clauses lesson is actually a very vast lesson where you have to be learning about noun clause, adjective clause and adverb clause. We are not going to touch those that part of the portion. We are only going to be teaching you as to what is the difference between phrase and clause. Then about clauses, we are only going to tell you what is a independent clause, what is a independent principal clause, or what is subordinate clause or dependent clause, and what are coordinating clauses. So, now I want you to copy down these few sentences into your notebooks, and we will be discussing this exercise a little later after I have given you some more information about clauses. Now, here say whether each of the following is a clause or a phrase. Okay. Now, here you have to be doing is you have to tell me whether this is a clause or a phrase. So, I will be scrolling this video is there. I will be reading out the 10 sentences also, and likewise I want you to copy this into your notebook also, so that later on I will be discussing this exercise with you when I finish teaching you about what is this thing. So, in the garden, while Charlie was reading the newspaper, Dorothy works at a restaurant, the big green box, we don't live in Dallas anymore, extremely hungry right now, had been waiting. Then next one is, if you see Mr. Sullivan tomorrow, slowly and steadily. Then next one, whenever I play a video game, it reminds me of my childhood. So, I want you to copy these 10 sentences into your notebook, and then after some time in another few minutes we will come back to this exercise and we will write down the answers also. By now itself some of you may have identified which are the phrase and all. So, likewise as you copy down the sentence, the answer, you can write it down there at the side. Okay. Now, after this I will teach you something more, and then we will come back to this exercise. Now, there are mainly 3 types of clauses. Okay. Now, clauses, as I told you, one is the independent clause, or it even goes by another name as main clause or principal clause. Then there is another type that is called subordinate clause or dependent clause. Then the third type is the coordinating clause. I have used short form here, CL is nothing but clause. Okay. So, these are the main 3 types of clauses. Okay. Now, we will go into a little more of details of these 3 clauses. Now, see, as I told, the first clause goes by 3 names, any of these names, either it could be independent clause, main clause or principal clause. Okay. Now, what do you understand by independent? Now, independent means all by itself, isn't it? Principal or main clause has the same meaning, it is a main clause. Okay. A clause that conveys a complete meaning, thought, and consists of a subject and a finite verb and can stand alone by itself is called independent clause. Now, I will tell you now, see the importance that is given. Independent clause, from the word itself you can independent, it has complete meaning. Okay. It consists of a verb and a subject and stands alone by itself. So, these are the requirements that are needed for an independent or principal or main clause: complete meaning, subject and finite form and stands alone is called an independent clause. Now, we will have a look at the example. For example, here, all the boys shouted. Does it make complete sense? I have put the question there. Does it make complete sense? All the boys shouted. Are you seeking for more information? No. Yes, it makes complete sense. Are the requirements there? Is there a subject and is there a verb? All the boys is a subject, shouted, verb. Okay, so it, and this sentence stands by itself. So, this is a independent clause. Now, we will have a look at the next example. She went to her room. She went to her room. Complete sense? Yes. Does it satisfy the other two requirements? Does it have a subject and does it have a verb? Yes. She is a subject, went is a verb. So, this is also an independent or principal or main clause. Now, have a look at example 3. Where were you? Where were you? Answer you will be giving. But does that question sound complete? Where were you? Yes, it sounds complete. Yes. So, once condition satisfied. Now, second condition is whether it has a subject and a verb. Does it have a subject? Where subject? Word is a verb. So, now yes, it makes sense. It satisfies both these conditions and so what? Now, these three examples are nothing but they are independent clause or main clause or principal clause. So, children, I hope you have understood what do you mean by principal clause or independent clause or main clause. Okay, it goes by 3 names. Okay, so don't get confused over what it is. Now, coming to the next one, dependent clause. Now, as the word suggests, dependent, it is depending on something else or somebody else, or subordinate clause. Sub means what? It is a part of another whole. Did you get me, children? Okay, understand the meanings of the word. Dependent means it is depending on something else or somebody else, or subordinate, it is a part of some other whole sentence. Okay, so these clauses are the ones that have, now see here, that have a finite verb but do not make complete sense on their own. Okay. They make sense only when they are attached to an independent clause. Now, did you understand the difference? Independent means it was independent on its own. It didn't have to need the support of anybody else. But here it are the ones that have a verb. They may have a finite verb, but they do not make complete sense and they are attached to an independent clause. Like for example, when I got home from work yesterday. When I got home from work yesterday. Isn't there a question mark over your face? So what? When you got home, what did you do? What next after that? So, is it complete? So, at once you ask, is that, I am asking you the question, is that a complete sentence? No. You are still seeking some more information, isn't it? So, now, but if I add something more and make it a more meaningful statement. So, now what happens is, now this what I have written on the board, this phrase what I have written, when I got home from work. It is so depending on another one to make it more sensible, isn't it? It is, you are still seeking something more information to make it more sensible sentence. So, now when I got home from work yesterday, I have kept it like that way, and now see what I am doing. I watched TV for an hour. Now, when I got home from work yesterday, I watched TV from an hour. Does that sound complete now, children? Yes, it sounds complete. It's most sensible also. So, now here this when I got home from work is depending on another part of a sentence. I watched TV for an hour. Now this part, I watched TV for an hour. Is it a complete sensible sentence on its own? I watched TV for an hour. Are you getting the full message, whatever that person is trying to say? Yes. So now here, when I attach this to that given sentence, when I got home from work yesterday, I watched TV for an hour. So this, what I have underlined and circled in green, becomes your dependent clause, and it is depending on which one. I watched TV for an hour, that becomes your main clause. Okay. Now if you see, these two are, you know, what you say, linked together by one word, that is the word when. So that is known as, that becomes known as your subordinating conjunction. I got home from work yesterday. It sounds complete, but when the conjunction is attached to it, you do not, you know, get the full meaning. It sounds complete. Of course, you have got the subject and the verb, but still it sounds incomplete because you are depending on something for some more information. And then when you attached some more information, it became a more sensible sentence. So now you have got, when I got home from work yesterday, I watched TV for an hour. Now you are able to, you know, get it as a full, complete, sensible sentence, because now your dependent clause has been attached to an independent clause there, and now you are able to make it, you know, get the full message across you, and now you are able to distinguish which is the dependent clause here and which is your what you say, main clause here. Now children, now dependent clause is clear to you, and in the what do you say, independent clause is clear to you. Now we will go back to that exercise what I had told you we told that we will do it later on, because now you have understood the terms, what is independent clause and what is dependent clause. So now we will write the answers here. Now here, first one, children, in the garden. Now what could be your answer here for this one? In the garden, it becomes the phrase. Now, while Charlie was reading the newspaper, while Charlie was reading the newspaper, it makes some sense. Yes or no, children? Does it make some sense? So here, what type of clause will it become? While Charlie was reading the newspaper. While Charlie was reading. So you got the subject here, you got the subject, you have got was reading as the verb. So this is actually the clause. But what type of clause this is? The dependent clause. Okay, children. Now, Dorothy works at a restaurant. It makes complete sense, isn't it? So this is a clause, but independent. Okay. Now, the big green box, does it make partly any sense? No. So this becomes the phrase. Then, we don't live in Dallas anymore. Complete sentence, independent by itself. So this is either your independent, or you can even put the other name also, principal or main clause. Now, extremely hungry right now. Extremely hungry right now. So this becomes your phrase. Then, had been waiting. Had been waiting. What is it? Becomes your phrase. Then, if you see Mr. Sullivan tomorrow, it makes some sense, isn't it? So here it is depending on something more information. So you will put, it's a clause, it's a dependent clause. Then slowly and steadily. Slowly and steadily. What is it? It is a phrase. Then, whenever I play a video game, it reminds me of my childhood. So, now this sentence can be broken up into two. Whenever I play video game, it reminds me of my childhood is a full independent clause here. So, here this part I play, you have got two answers here. For this part here, it is your, this is a clause, but dependent, and it reminds me of my childhood. This is your clause, but this is an independent clause. Okay, children, now I hope this part is very clear to you. This exercise is very clear to you. If you still have doubts over this exercise, when we are having our Google session, we can you can get your doubts clarified there. Now children, I have given you another extra some sentences here. Now in this, I want you to copy down this exercise also into your notebook. In the following sentences, identify the principal, subordinate clause and the subordinate conjunctions. Okay. So, I will scroll this down, I will read it out at the same time, and I hope as you see this video clip, I want you to copy this down into your notebook also. I love to travel because I get to meet a lot of interesting people. Second sentence, even though the exam was quite difficult, all the students passed. Okay. Then third one, let me know if you need any help. Next one, you can't go out and play until you have finished your homework. So, all these four sentences, I want you to write it into your notebook, and then this exercise we will discuss it in our Google Meet. Okay. Now, with this I will end this video module here, and we will continue in the next module. Thank you, children.